Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at how you can find intimacy and attachment, specifically emotional attachment, using astrology. So we're going to be performing another birth chart deep dive today. However, before we do get started, definitely make sure that you give this video a like if you like it. Also make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to of course click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have some nice merchandise pieces available on my Teespring. So if you're interested, then definitely be sure to go to the link in the description box below. Okay, so with all those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be sharing where you can find intimacy and attachment, looking at emotional attachment there within the birth chart. Of course, this is just my own analysis, but also feel free to add to the discussion in the comment section down below. Right, so let's get into this. The first house that I want to bring your attention towards is the 8th house. And this is because the 8th house in astrology, it pertains to things like intimacy, closeness, emotional bonding, vulnerability, and sexuality. Yeah, that's a lot, right? It's associated with a deep connection between two or more people, especially an emotional or physical or sexual connection, but it can also be a connection that is spiritual or intellectual, keeping in mind that there are many types of intimacy, different types to explore. But still, it's our intimate relationships that force us to look within others and within ourselves. They make us question who we are and what we want. And when we do relate with another person on a deeply emotional level, we often lose all common sense and rational thought. We become swept away by the highs and the lows that our relationships bring, and we might act out in ways that seem pretty alien to our character. But likewise, it's our intimate relationships that encourage us to build a strong and profound connection with someone else. They encourage us to care about another person as we feel greatly for them and for their well-being. They make us empathetic. They make us feel empathy and emotional understanding towards them as well. And the more we feel close and comfortable with another person, the more likely we are to open up to them. The more likely we are to try new things in their company. And the more likely we are to pour our heart out and to let that other person into our deepest, darkest secrets and fears and vulnerabilities. It's interesting because the 8th house squares the 5th house, and the 5th house is associated more with fun and play and pleasure within our romantic relationships. It looks at dating and it looks at casual flings and hookups, but the 8th house is more about an emotional connection. It's associated with seeing through the facade that we all put on whenever we're dating or whenever we're getting to know someone new. And like I said, the more we get comfortable with someone else, the more the facade dissolves. And this is why I said that our intimate relationships force us to look within ourselves and others, because the closer we become to another person, the more layers there are to sort of pull back, the more things we discover along the way. Imagine it like this, right? Say you're on a date with someone new. This is your first date. This is more 5th house territory, okay? And then suddenly they start talking about getting married or meeting, or you meeting their parents or having a baby with you. Sure, some people may feel this way, you know, the whole love at first sight, or the moment I saw that person, I knew that person was the one. Yes, some people may feel this way. and they may want to really do these things with you. But for the most part, I think this would be very overwhelming. Like this topic, these topics rather, to discuss on a first date would be a lot. But then imagine those things being discussed after you've gotten to know this other person, or after you've developed feelings for them. You might then feel a lot more open to the possibility of getting married or having a baby. And then taking this a step back to the whole facade part that I talked about, imagine you're on a first date with someone new and they're pulling out all the stops, okay? They look great, they look on point, they smell amazing, they're kind, they're courteous, they're generous, and they're just enjoyable to be around. They are essentially presenting the best qualities of themselves. They're basically putting on that shiny image that we all can put on whenever we start dating, whilst we are sort of simultaneously projecting our own images onto others and so on. It's okay, we can all do it. But still, fast forward to 5 years into your relationship with this new person, maybe you're engaged, and then with this person has had, you and this person have shared many heart-to-heart discussions. You know about each other's pasts. You've argued, you've said things you don't mean out of anger, you've maybe projected hurt feelings onto them, or maybe you've gotten like a real good look into what the other person is like behind closed doors. Sure, you might come to discover that this person has so much more to them than what they originally presented at the very beginning of your relationship together. But now you and them are emotionally connected. There's an emotional bond there. You share the same bed together. You have sex with each other. You discuss money and resources with one another. And you've both went through transformations as a couple. And I mean like transformations being the likes of moving house, going on vacation, having a baby, getting engaged as well, and then other transformations to come like getting married, along with transformations that challenge your relationship, such as one of your parents dying, or one of you experiencing a trauma, or maybe one of you going through a financial crisis. And with these transformations, they can certainly bring a couple closer together. They can also make you see different sides to your partner. And they also test our loyalty and our commitments towards each other. Though on the other hand, such challenges can result in a separation or a breakup. Things can become just a mess. Things can come crashing down because of how both people are feeling. Or maybe it just gets to a point where you know what, we've both changed. We've both grown apart. Keeping in mind here as well that emotions are subject to change. Maybe for some people the intimacy ends because they're just no longer in love, or because they no longer have feelings, or maybe there are situations where one person becomes emotionally distant, possibly due to a tragedy or due to a crisis or a trauma, or maybe in other situations there's lies or deceit within the relationship, possibly infidelity or abuse. All things that can essentially hinder us from developing and sustaining intimacy with another person. Take the husband who is lying about money and gets the entire family into debt, for example. Or the wife who has a miscarriage and is so overwhelmed with sorrow, as another example. Yeah, these types of situations can fall under the 8th house umbrella, and they can be linked with intimacy, the intimacy that we share with another. Likewise, our past can affect the intimacy that we share with another person. I mean, if your upbringing was filled with acceptance and validation and closeness, then perhaps you're more likely to develop a trusting, intimate relationship with somebody else later on in your life. But if your upbringing was filled with drama, chaos, unease, turbulence, discomfort, then perhaps you're more likely to be guarded and cautious and also distrusting towards others. Maybe you struggle to let people close, or maybe you push people away. Or perhaps you don't know what it's like to get close to somebody else due to feeling or being abandoned or neglected as a child. Then again, maybe you're someone who was raised in an environment where everyone was just forced to lean on each other, and so you seek to lean on your friends or on your partners later on in your life. Or maybe for someone else out there, maybe you just feel awkward when it comes to intimacy in general. Though whatever the case here, folks, intimacy is something we build. It's something we develop and deepen over time, and it's the 8th house in the birth chart that can point towards your intimate relationships. So for example, if you have Leo in the 8th house, then what this suggests is that you're someone who incorporates pleasure with intimacy. You really want to dive into yours and your partner's deepest sexual desires and pleasures. It's maybe very important for you to tap into these things, and when you do, you feel closer. And you're also most likely going to be someone who needs to keep the romance alive within the bedroom and when it comes to, intimacy. And you might also show your partner plenty of affection and praise, and you may be very warm and generous within your deep connections. But then let's say you have Taurus in the 8th house. This suggests that you're someone who seeks out plenty of physical touch within your intimate relationships. You can be very sensual and quite hedonistic at times too. And what's really important to you here is just to feel the physical connection with someone else. And you might also build steadily and gradually upon trust within your intimate relationships. And at times you can be quite stagnant and stubborn when addressing emotional complications or implications. But then just as much, you're probably quite calm and relaxed and patient when your partner opens up to you. Though still, it may just take you some time to open up, and maybe a part of the opening up process for you is feeling secure within the intimate relationship. But then also, let's say you have Gemini in the 8th house. Well, this suggests that you're someone who seeks out honesty and communication within your intimate relationships. Maybe communicative intimacy is important to you, or maybe you like to keep the curiosity and the lightheartedness alive, where there's laughter and there's playfulness and a bit of teasing, Or maybe you like to keep your partner guessing in the bedroom as well, to keep things fresh and really interesting. And maybe you prefer speaking about your sexual desires with your partner, and also perhaps intelligence and wit. These things, they bring you closer to your partner. They can result in more intimacy. I said earlier with intellectual intimacy, yeah, that might be right up your street. But then, let's say for the last example here, you've got Cancer in the 8th house, then maybe you strongly seek out affection and safety within your intimate relationships. Maybe the more safe you feel, the more likely you are to open up and be vulnerable and to be affectionate. And also, the more you feel emotionally supported and cared for, the more likely you're going to feel protected. Maybe you love cuddling and just really being held by the person that you're intimate with. Or maybe having them close is just very, very important to you in general. Or perhaps there's this whole outlook where it's like, the more memories we make together, then the better it is. Now also, remember to look for the planet that rules your 8th house as well, because this planet is also going to give you information into your close intimate relationships. And also keep in mind that these relationships don't necessarily have to be romantic or sexual relationships, and that there are other types of intimacy as well. Then again, perhaps this is where the house placements come into play a little bit. So let's say, for example, you've got Sagittarius in the 8th house, and then you've got Jupiter in the 11th house, Jupiter being the ruler of Sagittarius. Maybe developing deep bonds within your friendships is something you seek after, or something you wish to experience. where there's real truth and just being straightforward with each other. It's these types of things that you're really looking for. But then let's say you have Capricorn in the 8th house with Saturn in the 2nd house. Maybe you're very ambitious when it comes to your personal finances and your resources. And you're also when it comes to your intimate relationships, you prefer to take charge in this way. You prefer to take control of those financial matters as well. And sure, you might be slow and calculative when approaching intimacy, especially that emotional intimacy, but you still strive for success, I think, within this area. There's a possibility that you'll let your guard down more once you feel like that stable, secure foundation within your relationships or within that particular intimate relationship. And this could also, I think, apply to your family members or to any children that you have too. But then let's also say, for example, Pisces. You've got Pisces in the 8th house and then you've got Neptune in the 7th house. Maybe you seek compassion and unconditional love and understanding within your intimate relationships. You dissolve barriers between you and those that you're close to, and you often come up with creative and imaginative ways of how to bring you and your lovers closer together. Then again, you might give a lot very early on, or you might lose yourself in the ideal of intimacy and closeness whilst denying any other issues that might be going on within the relationship. You might also put your partner on a pedestal, but still can't deny whenever those floodgates are open, you know, with all your emotion, you're all in. There's no going back. Now, it's also good to look for Mars within the chart and to also locate Pluto within the chart as well. Now, with Mars is the traditional ruler of the 8th house. And so in this respect, Mars can give you more information into that 8th house area for you. But I want to focus on Pluto for the purpose of this video today. Pluto will show you where you find deep meaning, along with where you transform or change as you dive deeper. It can be associated with emotional and or psychological blockages that we face. So looking at things that might block us from getting close to somebody else. But likewise, Pluto can show us where our relationships deepen, where they evolve. So looking at our personal power and our transformations along with the transformations that we experience with others. So if you have Pluto in the 3rd house, then you may experience emotional and or psychological blockages connected with mean siblings or with cruel peers or with your dangerous local neighborhood. But by diving deep into these areas to investigate them, you can become reborn. You can transform, such as a sibling relationship deepening or a previous school relationship changing, transforming. But then let's say you've got Pluto in the 5th house. There may be some emotional, psychological blockages connected with a past destructive romance or with children, maybe like spiteful, mean children, possibly from whenever you were younger, or maybe there's some psychological or emotional blockage connected with a certain hobby that you really enjoyed, but then it was destroyed. You were sort of told, no, you can't do that. But by diving deep into these areas to investigate them, again, you can become reborn, you can transform. So this could be the likes of the deepening of a new romantic relationship or the reconnection of a hobby that you once really loved as a child. So tapping into your inner child that wants to play and be creative. Or this could be the birth of a child that you have that completely transforms you. But then let's say the last example, Pluto in the 4th house. Maybe you have that. Well, there could be an emotional or psychological blockage connected with a past family trauma or with the death of a loved one or with a manipulative family member. But by diving deep into these things to investigate them, again, you can become reborn, you can transform. such as you finding a safe place where you feel like you belong, where you feel secure. Or this could be the likes of you taking back your power by speaking up, or speaking rather, with someone who can help you make sense of your powerful, profound emotions. Now, speaking of emotions, and also of the 4th house, seeing as I did mention it in the previous example, I also want to talk about the 4th house and its association with emotional attachment, along with how it relates to intimacy and closeness, and especially with how it relates to that emotional bonding that we form with others. See, it's the 4th house in the birth chart that can show you the type of family environment that you were raised in. It can pertain to your family and home living situation, and it can also point towards the ways in which you were emotionally cared for and supported and nurtured. Essentially, it's this area of your life that addresses your support system within your family home, along with your emotional well-being. And it's these things that can impact our feelings of closeness with others. They can influence our emotional attachments to people and places and things and situations, and they of course can play a role within our intimate relationships. So looking at the likes of attraction, loyalty, commitment, comfort, affection, bonding, and inner fulfillment, and of course emotional satisfaction, and so on. So some examples, just using the whole sign system for the purpose of this video today to help you ground what I'm saying. Let's say you've got Libra in the 4th house and then Aquarius in the 8th house. Maybe your family unit was big on keeping the peace, and so people within your home growing up were very courteous and tactful and diplomatic. This may have created a more harmonized atmosphere, but it might have also created false peace at times, such as no one speaking up whenever they felt uncomfortable out of fear of disturbing the peace, so to speak. And so perhaps you often rationalize your feelings and emotions, or maybe you prefer to keep certain emotions in. You just keep them in. But it's these emotions that you keep in because you think you'll create discord or disharmony by communicating them or by letting them out. But then it's also these same themes and patterns that you can bring into your close bonding, intimate relationships. Perhaps you spend so much of your time rationalizing and weighing things out in your mind that you then struggle to open up and express what you're actually feeling deep down. Perhaps what can come with this are the likes of you feeling misunderstood or you feeling like people don't get you. And it can also suggest that you rebel against others, or you sort of push people away whenever they try to push you to open up. It's like, no, I'm an individual person. Don't tell me what to do when it comes to my emotions. Then again, I also think that you can still be open-minded when it comes to these things. There's still a likeliness of you experimenting and trying new things, and there's a likeliness of you evolving and bettering yourself when it comes to all things psychological and emotional as well. And I also think that can come with this betterment is the likelihood of you learning to talk about things, and maybe a certain relationship that you develop with somebody else is what helps you get there. Having a partner by your side, or a friend, someone who can really bring you out of your shell, so to speak. Though another example, let's say you have Sagittarius in the 4th house with Aries in the 8th house, like me. Maybe your family unit was quite religious, or maybe there was just a certain belief system that your family followed, or maybe your family was big into travel and exploration, and so perhaps you would visit different travel destinations with family growing up, or perhaps there was a focus on the morals and the ethics that existed within the family home. Then again, maybe family members were very opinionated and outspoken, members were blunt and very forthright, and so at times they didn't actually take other family members' feelings or emotions into consideration. Sure, people were focused on freedom and truth and knowledge, but if certain emotions came up that didn't necessarily align with these things, it's as if the emotions that perhaps you specifically felt were written off from more of an intellectual standpoint. And so as you enter into a close bonding intimate relationship, it's these themes and patterns that might play out. So this could be the likes of you getting very impatient or really frustrated by emotions that you don't know how to deal with or fix. Or this could be a situation where you push very heavily on a friend or a partner as a way to make them listen to your beliefs and a way to make them listen to your opinions, or as a way just to make them see things see things the way you do specifically. Or maybe there's a suggestion here of you not knowing how to manage your emotions due to how inconsiderate your family were towards your emotions growing up, further implying an insensitivity towards other people's later on in life. Still though, there's also a likelihood of you learning and transforming through these things. It's all that 8th house stuff, you know? And so maybe you actually develop or evolve into a wise individual who's willing to learn from your emotions and from the emotions of others. Now, of course, these are just examples, and things can play in many different ways when it comes to astrology, but ultimately it's good to look into both your 4th and 8th houses when understanding emotional attachment and intimacy. And it's also good to look at the sign that rules these houses along with planets in each of these houses as well. And then also make sure that you're locating your Cancer house and your Scorpio house, keeping in mind, that Cancer rules the 4th house within astrology, Scorpio rules the 8th house within astrology. And likewise, also keep in mind aspects along with transits and progressions. And likewise, also make sure that you're looking at aspects along with transits and progressions. Furthermore, you're also going to be looking into that planet that rules the 4th and 8th houses. Now, I did talk about the 8th house just a moment ago, but with the 4th house, so the ruling planet of your 4th house, it's good to locate where that planet is for more insight into your family life and into your past and into your memories. So for example, if you've got Aries in the 4th house, but then you've got Mars in the 12th house, maybe a family member was sick or hospitalized, or maybe they were struggling with an addiction, or maybe they were in prison, or maybe you were often unacknowledged for your drive or for your motivation and for your willingness to assert yourself, and so you learn to hide these things. Maybe your memories of the past are that of strife and conflict that you feel within or behind closed doors, or maybe you told yourself, you know what, I don't need anybody, I'm fine all on my own. But then let's say, for example, you've got Virgo in the 4th house with Mercury in the 6th house. Maybe you grew up in a home environment where family members were focused greatly on cleanliness and organization. Everything had its place and there were specific ways that things were done. There might have been many high expectations to get things correct or to be productive and to be efficient. And so your memories of the past are that of duties and tasks and chores and attending to the day-to-day workload. And it's these things that you may bring into the workplace where you're a very hard worker who is dutiful and willing to help. Then again, perhaps these things are what you feel you're good for, if that makes sense. So this whole notion of seeking emotional satisfaction for your constructive efforts. Like I said a moment ago, I have Sagittarius in my 4th house, so it's actually ruling my 4th house, but I also have Jupiter in Virgo, conjunct my Virgo ascendant, and I gotta say, I feel this. I feel this not only in the workplace, but within every aspect of my life. It's like if I'm not helping or fixing a situation or issue, then I feel unuseful. And I can often feel like I'm not really adding to a situation or providing anything of substance or value if I'm not making it better or mending it. These things I think I recognize for me, they're all emotional. And if I do feel these things, or these feelings of helplessness, I suppose you could say, I can feel kind of low, pretty down about myself. And on the other side of this, if I feel like I can improve upon things, and I do, I'll feel much happier. I'll feel a lot lighter. So I suppose you could say that I myself have a bit of an emotional attachment to being a helper, being a fixer. Yeah. Now I mention it, actually, let's explore some emotional attachment examples for more insight here. Though if you do want more insight into just emotional attachments, then yes, look at the 4th house, but also look at your Cancer house and look at the position of the 4th house ruling planet, and then also look to the moon in the chart. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be kind of going into these emotional attachment examples using the Cancer and moon houses. So for example, if you have Cancer or the moon in the 12th house within your birth chart, then perhaps there are some emotional attachments connected to the loss of a mother figure here, or to the loss of a family member, or there could be an emotional attachment that you're unaware of, but these things come out more subconsciously, or perhaps there's some emotional attachments to spiritual subject matters, or to just spirituality overall. But then let's say you've got moon or Cancer in the 5th house. There may be some emotional attachments to art or music, or to your creativity, or to drama. You know, you may be a very, very creative person in this respect. Or there may be some emotional attachments to children here, or to love and romance. It's like you may have such strong emotional pulls to past relationships and to lovers that you're in a relationship with. Or there may be some emotional attachments to your hobbies or to your spare time pursuits. But then let's say you've got moon or Cancer in the 9th house, then there may be some emotional attachments to your beliefs, or to your religion, so your religious beliefs, or to your academic credentials. Or perhaps there's some of these emotional attachments to certain destinations that you visited, or to certain travel memories that you have from the past. But then let's say you have moon or Cancer in the 3rd house. There may be some emotional attachments to the words people say, to authors, to writers, to musicians, or some attachments to the neighborhood that you grew up in, or to peers from the past. Essentially, we can't deny that our emotions, they impact how close we feel to another person. They impact the intimacy and the emotional bonding we experience with them as well. And it's our emotions that are strongly linked to our past and to our upbringing. After all, as babies, our emotions are what keep us alive, because they signal to our parents or to our caregivers what we need. And as we do get older, we learn how to manage our emotions, and of course we incorporate other things into the picture. But likewise, as we age, our emotional patterns, they're subject to change. Though still, it's our emotions, amongst other things, of course, that play a vital role within our relationships, within our close relationships. So when you're looking at intimacy in the birth chart, yes, look at those 8th house Scorpio, Pluto areas that I talked about, but also look at the 4th house Cancer moon areas for more insight into how you connect emotionally with others. Also, look into them to see how you comfort or support others, along with how you wish to be comforted and supported by others there too. Because the way I see it is that the moon in astrology, it is really associated with how secure we feel within our relationships. Shows us how we grow to feel comfortable with another person, shows us how we emotionally attach within our relationships. And it's these emotional attachments that can either create a strong emotional bond between ourselves and someone else, or it can create just a whole mess of emotional strife given the situation. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my really long video on how you can find intimacy and emotional attachment within the natal birth chart. Now, if you happen to have any thoughts and opinions on today's video, then definitely feel free to let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. I really would, because yeah, this video it's long and there's a lot within it. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button, and also make sure that you give this video a like, remember. And I will be back with another video very, very soon.